So it's funny how things happen, how things unfold in one's life that leads to a particular road or completely opening a brand new door that we never expected to open. That's how it was for me in starting this new career in the aviation industry. It was completely by chance, something I had not planned, but once I saw and looked into it further, I seemed to be very interested in it, and it seemed to fit me really well. So this is a story on how I got started into the aviation industry. How you doing? This is Valencia Flyer. Hope you're doing wonderful today. So I just wanted to touch base with you guys and tell you a little bit about my story on how I got started as a flight attendant and also in the aviation industry. My friends and family have known me as a very creative person throughout my life. I am originally from Santa Monica, California, and have pretty much been in Los Angeles my whole life, except for a little bit of time during college in Boston. And here I am, starting my second, some might even call it my third professional career in my life in the aviation industry. So let me tell you a little bit about how this happened. Being a creative and also being from Los Angeles, of course, I was a waiter and a bartender for many years. The first time I was introduced into the restaurant industry was way back in 1990, working for a restaurant called Tony Roma's on the 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica. Love that job. I love that city. It's my hometown, and it was such a great place to be with some wonderful people. I still remember so many of the people I used to work with and all the interesting characters that you would find going down the 3rd Street Promenade. If you know, you know. So yeah, that's how I started my career in the hospitality and restaurant industry. As time went on, I checked out a lot more restaurants, had some wonderful restaurants like the El Torito Grill in Beverly Hills. One of my other favorites was Benny Testa's in Boston, and the list goes on and on. So I have a lot of experience in the hospitality and restaurant industries, even up to recently, very recently. Since in the last 2-3 years, I've actually moved away from California. Now live here in the Washington State area. And even out here, I got myself another job as a server and bartender in some of the local restaurants here in the area. So as fate would have it, I was working for a restaurant, and unfortunately, they weren't giving as many hours as they once were. Business had slowed down, or they were shifting, who knows, but at the end of the day, there wasn't as many hours that I was receiving, but unfortunately, we still got to pay the bills, right? So in that process, I started preparing my resume to look for another serving job or something like that. Meanwhile, I was working on my other creative endeavors on the side, and I prepared my resume for customer service and started sending it out everywhere and anywhere. I found some interesting leads on Indeed and sent that out, and ultimately I did land a new job at another restaurant that was local to here where I live. But in that process, apparently I also applied for a U.S. major airline to work at their ticket counter, and then I think even possibly baggage handling or something like that here. I'm not too far away from the airport, so I thought, okay, that might be kind of interesting. But they returned an email and saying, you know what, we really like your resume, and we actually might consider you for a flight attendant job. And I was like, flight attendant, okay. And at the moment, I remember it very vividly. It's like, it struck me a little bit like question mark, like, well, what does that mean exactly, right? I think I know what it means, but maybe I should look into this a little deeper. So ultimately I did. I started researching a little bit on what flight attendants do on YouTube and read some articles. And the funny thing is that it really is a bit of a customer-based, it is a little bit more of a customer-based job where you are taking care of people. You know, I've been on a plane, you probably have too. You know, they're serving drinks and food down the aisle, depending on what part of the plane flight you're in. So it was a very, along the lines of what my customer service had been for many years prior. But I love to travel. And I'm very fascinated by the airplane and aviation industry. I always joke to my friends that in another life, I probably would have been another pilot or something like that, or I just something that about it that I thought was really, really cool, and that just seemed to fit me for some reason. But again, I never thought it was something that I would actually do in my life. It was always just an afterthought. It was never even a regret per se. It was just something that, oh, we would have been cool had, it would have been cool if, right? But never in a million years that I actually consider that it would be something that I actually do in this life, right? So when this opportunity came up and the further I looked into it, I'm like, you know what? This seems to work out really, really well. It seems to fit me really well with my hospitality, experience. I love dealing with people. I love helping people out. I'm always there to make sure that the people and my guests are happy. Wow, you know what? This seems like a really, really good fit to me. Why didn't I think of this earlier? Why didn't I do this 20 years ago? It just never entered my mind. But okay, great. So I finished the application process and then sent out some questionnaire that they had me fill out, and that's how the whole process started. Now, this was probably around 4 months ago. The process can take a good amount of time. It really can. But the next thing I know, I am on a plane flying over to their headquarters to do a face-to-face interview. If you've been following this channel, that is my very, very first episode on this channel, was literally in my hotel room, about to walk out the door for my face-to-face interview. If you haven't seen it, you can go ahead and check it out right up here. I'll go ahead and put a link to it. And then the interview went really well. I love the energy of everyone there. The plane flight over to my face-to-face interview was so cool because word had got out that I was on my way to headquarters to do a face-to-face interview, and the flight attendants on that flight were so incredibly generous, with their time, with their information, with their knowledge. It was so incredibly cool. And I was able to chat with a few of them and talk to them for a little bit and get a better sense of what their careers were like. Some had been doing it for a few years. I know there was one lady that had been doing it for over 20 years. And they all seemed still very fresh on the job. It was really interesting. But the more they told me about what their lifestyle was, the more I was like, oh, this is cool. This is really, really cool. And we just had a great conversation, a great connection. Hopefully one of these days I'll meet those flight attendants again in the future, but there's a good chance I never will again. But towards the end of my flight, they did something so incredibly heartwarming that I was just like, come on, really? Did you guys really just do this? They created a little care package for me. They put all these cookies and chips and everything like that with a really cool note on wishing me luck and saying that, they would love to be in the skies with me in the future and hope to see me up there. And I thought it was such a great and incredible gesture that these guys did, that I was just like, wow, this is really great. And this is something that I can really, I would love to be a part of that crew. They seem like such wonderful, wonderful people. But I also took that as like a little bit of a sign, I was being maybe a little optimistic at the time, right? But I took it as a good omen that I was like, wow, this is such a great thing that they did. Maybe it's going to lead to something good. And sure enough, it did. I had a great interview later on. I was the next day, actually, and had a wonderful sense of all the rest of the people that were at this company at headquarters. And I was like, you know what? Sign me up. Sign me up. Where do I sign? This is good. This is good stuff. I want to be a part of this big time. So that's what happened. And luckily, after my face-to-face interview, it did take a little while, but went through things, had a little hiccup that really freaked me out about my background check. And I'll tell you the whole story here if you want to check that out. There's the video on that. But that really, really freaked me out. And man, did I jump into action to try to resolve that immediately, Luckily, my family were supportive in helping me out and figuring it all out. and it luckily resolved itself. I took action, and it did resolve itself, and we moved forward, which was great. But anyway, so I'm just a few days away from actually going to headquarters to be training for several weeks, and I'm super looking forward to it. It is probably going to be very challenging. I hear that I'm probably not going to get a lot of sleep, which is fine. But hopefully I do well, and hopefully that will begin my official career as a flight attendant and a newbie to the aviation industry. So that is the story on how I got into this, and even taking it a step further, I was like, you know what? If we're going to do this, let's do it all the way, right? So I actually started taking private pilot lessons to learn a little bit about how a plane operates, how it works, and everything like that. So that was a lot of fun. And you'll see my first lesson of flight right here. I'll go ahead and put that up on the cards there too. And that was super exciting. And like my buddy said, you know what? I think the bug bit you. And he's right. I think the bug has definitely bit. And I'm really looking forward to all of this that's coming up. So anyway, that brings me to today. So here I am. I thought, this would be a wonderful opportunity to start a YouTube channel. And lo and behold, the more I researched it, the more I discovered, holy cow, there's so many flight attendants and pilots that have their own YouTube channel. I thought, oh wow. I thought, here I am with some cool original idea, right? No way. There are so many wonderful channels out there with some great flight attendants out there and wonderful pilots that are all sharing their experiences, their knowledge. I always thought it'd be cool to have a travel vlog kind of YouTube channel, sort of thing. And it looks like through this, I might be able to actually do that. So the reason I set up this YouTube channel is, again, to document my experiences, my memories, but hopefully to share them all with you there at home or wherever you're watching this from. And if for some reason you're into this too, and if it's something that you're looking to get into, then there are some wonderful YouTube channels, and hopefully you will check mine out too, because I plan to share a lot of information as time goes on. I also plan to do a weekly report, if not more often, if possible, during my training, and all the adventures that I'm going to have, hopefully, and also all the great food and the great places I'm going to be able to go check out. So if that interests you at all, I would invite you to go ahead and subscribe to this YouTube channel. It would be wonderful to have you. If you like what you see, go ahead and hit that thumbs up right there. Check out some of the episodes that I've gone ahead and linked on this episode. And if you guys have any questions, go ahead and feel free to go ahead and put them in the comment section, and I will do my very best to get to them as soon as possible. All right, guys. Well, thank you very, very much for paying attention and listening to me ramble on. I really do hope that you join me on this adventure, and I'm very excited to bring this adventure to you with as much information and entertainment as I possibly can on this channel. So, all right, guys, well, have a wonderful night. Thanks so much. This is Valencia Flyer, and we will see you up in the skies, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.